Disclaimer. This video contains content that is the intellectual property of Blizzard Entertainment and Dark Horse Comics. I do not claim ownership of any visuals or material presented. This content is used for entertainment and informational purposes only, with no intention of infringing upon any copyrights. If there are any concerns regarding the use of this content, please reach out for resolution. Fall of the Black Empire. The victories over the Akyr and the Elementals heartened the Keepers, but they knew that their greatest battles were still to come. As one, they turned their righteous gaze on the heart of the Black Empire, the sprawling temple city built around the old god Y'Shaarj. By toppling the most powerful and rocky bastion on Azeroth, the Keepers believed they could crush their enemies in one swift stroke. The Keepers and their allies waded through one swarm of Enraki after another, as they battled their way toward the mountainous form of Y'Shaarj. The broken and mangled bodies of Titan-forged and Naraki alike riddled the landscape by the time the invaders breached the city and assaulted the old god itself. Y'Shaarj was more powerful than the Keepers had expected. It poisoned the minds of the Titan-forged, drawing out their fears and darkening their thoughts. The Pantheon grew concerned that the old god would overwhelm their servants. Despite the risk of harming the world, they decided to take direct action. Aman'Thul himself reached down through Azeroth's stormy skies and took hold of Y'Shaarj's writhing body. With a heave of his mighty arm, he tore the old god from the crust of the world. In that moment, Y'Shaarj's gargantuan bulk was ripped apart. The immensity of the old god's death rattle shattered mountaintops and obliterated hundreds of Titan forged where they stood. Y'Shaarj was dead, but its tendrils had bored more deeply through Azeroth than Aman'Thul had ever imagined. In excising the old god from the world, he had inadvertently ripped an eternal wound in Azeroth's surface. Volatile arcane energies, the lifeblood of the nascent Titan, erupted from the scar and roiled out across the world. Horrified by this turn of events, the Pantheon realized they could not risk killing the other old gods in such a manner. The malignant creatures had embedded themselves so deep into the world that tearing them out would destroy Azeroth itself. The Pantheon knew that the only course of action was to imprison the old gods where they lay and contain their evil forever. It would be a difficult task, but it would be possible with the aid of the Keepers. At the Pantheon's behest, the Titan-forged devised a plan to shatter the last vestiges of the Black Empire forever. They would battle each of the old gods directly. Once they had weakened the creatures, Archytas would create subterranean chambers to contain them. Mimiron would then fashion colossal machineries to lock the old gods in place. When this work was done, Loken would imbue each prison with a great enchantment that would neutralize the old god's evil. With their plans formed, the Titan-forged began their campaign. Great battles tore across the land as the Titan-forged fought their way southeast to the bastion of New Zoth. After overwhelming the old god, the Keepers used their powers to encase the creature in an underground prison. Next, the Titan-forged marched southwest to the sprawling temple city that had grown around the third old god, Cthulhu. The Keepers and their allies purged swarms of Naraki before assaulting the old god itself and subduing it. Much as they had done with New Zoth, the Keepers entombed the entity beneath the earth and constructed a prison of their own devising over its form. Only one old god remained, the vicious and cunning Yogg-Saron. It would not fall so easily. As the Titan-forged closed in on Yogg-Saron's crumbling northern stronghold, the old god unleashed the greatest of its generals, the Kethraxi. The Kethraxi were monstrous warbringers, larger and more resilient than other Enraki. They possessed great strength and brutal intellect, and their dark powers and maledictions could drive even the Titan-forged to madness. The giant, tentacle-faced Kethraxi whipped the remnants of the Black Empire into a frenzy. They swarmed the Titan-forged on all sides, thinning their ranks. By the time the Keepers and their allies reached Yogg-Saron, their forces were greatly diminished. They found that they lacked the strength of numbers to defeat the old god. Yogg-Saron would have destroyed the Titan-forged completely, if not for the heroic efforts of Odin. Although scarred and battered by war, Odin summoned his waning strength and inspired the Titan-forged to launch a counterattack. He commanded Loken to weave a grand illusion spell that forced the Kethraxi to see themselves, and even Yogg-Saron, as the enemy. As the Black Empire's forces turned on one another, Odin swooped in to cut down his confused foes. The other Titan Forged followed his lead, and together they succeeded in pacifying Yogg-Saron. As they had done with Cthulhu and N'Zoth, the Keepers buried the entity beneath the earth, locking it away in a monolithic enchanted prison. The Well of Eternity and the World Forges. For the first time in Azeroth's history, a tentative peace settled over the world. The Titan Forged had banished the chaotic elemental lords to another plane of existence. They had also purged the Black Empire and muted the terrible power of the old gods. Against all odds, Azeroth had been saved, but there was much work to be done. The Keeper's most pressing concern was the horrific scar left behind when Aman'Thul had torn Y'Shaarj from the world's crust. A constant stream of volatile arcane energy bled from the colossal rift, lashing out across the world. The Keepers knew that, if left unattended, these energies would consume Azeroth over time. The Keepers labored day and night, crafting magic wards around the gaping wound to staunch the escaping lifeblood. Eventually, the tumultuous energies calmed and settled into balance. All that remained of the scar was an immense lake of scintillating energy that the Keepers would call the Well of Eternity. Thereafter, the power of this wondrous fount would be infused in the ailing world, helping life to take root and bloom across the globe. With the wound healed, the Keepers sought to strengthen Azeroth's nascent world soul and stabilize its life force. To do so, Arquitous and Mimiron combined their powers to craft the Forge of Wills and the Forge of Origination. These two extraordinary machines would work in tandem, infusing Azeroth's slumbering spirit with cosmic energies. The Forge of Wills would be embedded in the northern reaches of the world, and it would shape the world soul's budding sentience. The Forge of Origination would be installed in the southern reaches of Azeroth, and it would regulate the rhythms of the deep earth and fortify the world soul's form. After these two machines were constructed, the Keepers went to work. Odin oversaw efforts to install the Forge of Wills within a vast northern mountain range that would become known as the Storm Peaks. The Pantheon appointed Odin the prime designate for his valorous deeds in the war with the old gods. The task of watching over Yogg-Saron's prison and maintaining the Forge of Wills would fall to him. Odin and the other Keepers immediately began building the great fortress of Ulduar to serve as the main bastion of the Titan Forged on Azeroth. The fortress would house not only Yogg-Saron's prison, but also the Forge of Wills and other machineries of the Keepers' devising. The Forge of Wills also served another purpose. It could draw on the life essence of Azeroth itself, giving shape and sentience to creatures of living stone and metal, not only giants but other types of Titan Forged as well. This new generation of Titan Forged would help the Keepers bring order to the world. As the Forge of Wills churned out these new Titan Forged, High Keeper Ra led an expedition to install the Forge of Origination in the south. He was accompanied by a number of stone-skinned creatures recently wrought from the Forge of Wills, the Anubisath giants, the leonine Tulvir, and the indomitable Mogu. En route, Ra discovered that remnants of Y'Shaarj's corporeal form lay strewn across the southern reaches of the world. When Aman'Thul had ripped the old god from Azeroth, pieces of the entity had fallen back to the surface, infusing the land with evil. The largest intact piece of Y'Shaarj was the old god's icy heart, a mass of diseased flesh seething with void energies. Rather than destroy the heart, Ra built a subterranean vault to contain it and neutralize its evil. He, along with the other Keepers, knew that studying the heart could help them understand the nature of the old gods and other void creatures. Ra charged his Mogu followers with watching over the vault of Y'Shaarj. They would guard and care for the surrounding land as well. Ra then continued his expedition and traveled west. There, he and his followers embedded the Forge of Origination in the land. The earth rumbled beneath Ra's feet as the gargantuan machine churned to life. The High Keeper soon sensed that the twin forges were working in synergy, sending healing energies through the heart of the world. Ra and his followers erected a sprawling fortress around the Forge of Origination. This site was called Uldum, and it would become the southernmost base of operations for the Keepers. Much like the Forge of Wills, the Forge of Origination would serve a dual purpose. In the event that Azeroth's flora and fauna succumbed to corruption, the incredible energies stored inside the great machine could be unleashed to eradicate all life on the world, allowing it to start anew. Highkeeper Ra commanded some of the Tol'vir and Anubisath to safeguard Uldum forever. He and the rest of his servants marched northwest into a land later known as Silithus. This arid and inhospitable region was home to the subterranean prison that housed the old god Cthulhu. Ra and his allies labored to expand on the prison, ultimately constructing the mighty fortress of Ankh-Kiraj. After the task was done, the High Keeper ordered his remaining Titan Forge to safeguard the stronghold. Ra himself, seeing his work completed, would spend the following ages roaming the southern regions of Azeroth, distantly observing his Titan Forged and ensuring that they upheld their sacred charges. The Ordering of Azeroth. With the twin forges embedded in Azeroth, the Keepers moved to reshape the surface of the world. To this end, they called on the new generation of servants wrought from the Forge of Wills. Each of these loyal and mighty Titan Forged would play a different role in ordering and protecting the world. The craggy, kind-hearted Earthen would specialize in crafting mountains and carving out the deep places of the world. The clockwork mechagnomes, designed by Keeper Mimiron, would help build and maintain the Keeper's extraordinary machineries. The stone, skinned Mogu, would dig out the myriad rivers and waterways of Azeroth. The task of safeguarding many of the Keeper's holdings would fall to two different groups of constructs, the iron-skinned Vrikul and the chiseled Tol'vir. To shape the environment, the Keepers also conscripted the powerful stone and sea giants. They would roam the breadth of Azeroth, lifting towering mountain ranges and dredging out the fathomless seas. As the Titan Forge began shaping Azeroth, Keeper Freya set out to populate the world with organic life. To do so, she crafted the Emerald Dream, a vast and ever-shifting dimension of spirits and nature magic. This ethereal plane acted as a mirror image of Azeroth, helping regulate the evolutionary path of the world's flora and fauna. A confluence of spirits and strange otherworldly beings populated the dream, frolicking in the surreal paradise that was their home. The mystical dream defied mortal perceptions of reality. Concepts like time and distance held no sway within this realm of intangibles. A day on the physical world could feel like decades in the dream. Freya then wandered the world, searching for areas where the well of eternity's energies had coalesced. These regions created optimal conditions for the development of new flora and fauna. Freya shaped immense enclaves of nature at these places of power. She molded life of astounding diversity, seeding it around the world. The sites where Freya had done her work were located at the polar extremes of the world. They included regions that would later become known as Ungoro Crater, Sholazar Basin, and the Vale of Eternal Blossoms. The greatest creatures to emerge from these enclaves were colossal animals known as the Wild Gods. Freya adored and cared for these majestic beings as if they were her very own children. She often wandered the physical world with the Wild Gods at her side, vibrant forests and grasslands blooming in their footsteps. Yet there was one place she and the Wild Gods frequented more than any other, a massive forested peak called Mount Hyjal, the Dreaming World. Some believe that Freya wove the Emerald Dream into being from nothing. Others claim that this strange place had always existed in some form, a dream born from Azeroth's slumbering world soul. It is said that Freya tapped into this realm and molded what would become known as the Emerald Dream, as a way to commune with the nascent Titan, the Wild Gods. Among the greatest Wild Gods were Malorn, the Honorable White Stag, Asina, the Mother Wisp, Agamagan, the Razor Boar, Aviana, the Mistress of Birds, Ursoc and Ursul, the Colossal Bear Lords, Tortola, the Wise, Goldrin, the Great Wolf, Shiji, the Red Crane, Niu Zhao, the Black Ox, Xuen, the White Tiger, Toulon, the Jade Serpent. It was on the slopes of Hyjal that Freya bound the spirits of her beloved Wild Gods to the Emerald Dream. Inexorably tied to the ethereal realm, they would come to symbolize the health and vitality of Azeroth itself. Forever after, Hyjal would remain a refuge and sacred place to the Wild Gods. As Freya's creations explored the world, they came across a number of other strange life forms. These creatures had emerged from Azeroth's elemental past of their own free will. When the Keepers had sealed off the elemental plane, some stragglers had escaped banishment. The fury of these spirits had ebbed over time, and they had become creatures of flesh and blood. It was from these former elementals that some forms of wildlife such as proto-dragons came to be. In time, the Keepers and their servants stabilized Azeroth's main landmass, a continent that teemed with plants and creatures of every kind. Twilight fell as the Titan Forge surveyed the world they had shaped, and they named the primary continent Kalimdor, Land of Eternal Starlight. The Pillars of Creation. The Pantheon bestowed wondrous artifacts on the Keepers to aid them with ordering the world. These relics were known as the Pillars of Creation. Ages after the Keepers had completed their grand work, the artifacts would become lost and scattered across the lands of Azeroth. The Pantheon's departure. Pleased with the Keepers' efforts and assured that the slumbering world soul was in good hands, the Pantheon prepared to venture back into the Great Dark. The discovery of Azeroth was proof that other nascent Titans could exist in the universe, and the Titans were eager to renew their search. The Keepers mourned the imminent departure of their makers, but they also brimmed with pride at being given the honor of safeguarding Azeroth. To commemorate the Pantheon's departure, Loken and Mimiron crafted a set of enchanted artifacts called the Discs of Norganon, which would transcribe history as it unfolded on Azeroth. If ever the Pantheon returned, they would possess a record of what had come to pass in their absence. In his final act before departing, Aman'Thul commissioned the constellar Algalon the Observer to serve as the world's celestial guardian. The possibility that the world's soul could become corrupted was one the Titans could not ignore. Should that come to pass, Algalon had the power to initiate a procedure that would activate the Forge of Origination, purging the world of life and any corruption that was present. With that, the Pantheon bade the Titan-Forged farewell and disappeared into the stars. The Titans had done everything possible to heal Azeroth and assure the world soul's maturation. All that remained now was to wait and hope that the world soul would one day awaken.